in the remote viewing 2 class that you also teach,
Yeah.
what are the, in general, what are the
Well, we
things? Thank you.
one of the great things that we can learn to use, and I was taught this at Stanford when the program when I retired from the Army, I went right to the science side. So I was in Stanford Research Institute with the researchers on remote viewing. Um, they brought in a woman by the name of Frances Farrelly. She was the president of the American Dowsers Association at the time in her 70s. And we did an exchange. I taught her remote viewing and she taught me dowsing. And
Mhm.
dowsing happens to be a functional tool that you can add to the viewing that makes it even better.
Mhm.
Um, Dowsing is probably 100 different ways of doing dowsing a location or dowsing an answer to something. If you're dowsing a location and you've already done the viewing, it almost always comes together as a single statement.
Mhm.
Uh, but when I did all the shows in Japan over a 6-year period, we looked for missing people, and we had a dowser on our show
Mhm.
every time. And there was a guy named Leroy Bull at the time. He was the American president of the American Dowsers Association, and he's an absolute brilliant guy. And the problem he had to do that he had to solve almost every single time he was filmed, they had these time capsules that little kids would fill and bury in the ground at their elementary schools.
Mhm.
The problem was now you flash forward, and all those young kids are now in their 70s
Mhm.
and they want to find that time capsule. The
Mhm.
problem is all these changes have been made to the school, additions, gardens, gymnasiums, all these kinds of things. So they have no idea where the time capsule is anymore. And the
Mhm.
teachers are long gone. So they would bring him in and put him at a table facing the school, and they'd lay the entire plat of the school out as it exists today. And he would douse where the location was of the time capsule.
Oh.
So he's never seen the school. He talks to none of the kids. In fact, he couldn't because they speak Japanese and he doesn't. So he sits at this table, he's film dowsing, and he finally decides on a location. He makes a little X. Now, the deal with the studio was if he put that X in the southwest corner of the inside of the gymnasium, they
Mhm.
got to open the doors, take the digger in, and right through the
Right.
floor. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the studio repair whatever damage was done.
Mhm.
Uh, I remember the first one he ever did. Beautiful garden. Japanese could know how to put a garden in. They had
Mhm.
this gorgeous garden in this central courtyard area where they had modified a whole bunch of buildings and stuff. And he said it's in this garden. So they had to squeeze this digger in, this digger on tracks, had to squeeze it into the garden, and it made a mess of the garden just getting in there. And then right where the X was, it digger nose goes in and pulls a big pile of dirt up, and hanging off one of the tines was a time capsule. He
Oh.
never missed
Wow.
the first strike with the digger. Always
Mm.
came up with dirt and a time capsule hanging off it or mixed in with the dirt. He never missed. The guy was that good,
Wow.
just
Wow.
absolutely incredible. And
Mhm.
so we teach dowsing, and there's other things we teach. We teach psychometry.
Mm.
Psychometry has to do with putting your hand on something and getting more information about it, even
Oh.
if it's in a sealed container or a box.
Mhm.
So if you have a missing person and you're
Mhm.
having a hard time targeting that missing person, you can take something they owned or handled every day, put it in a sealed box, wrap the box up, and hand it to someone, and they can just sit there with the box in their lap. And
Mm.
through psychometry, provide more statements or more accurate information. Um, we teach that. And there's a number of other things we do. We modify the round robin that we do, where we have the viewer, the analyst, and the monitor. Uh, we do away with the analyst and we use just the monitor and the viewer, but we change the type of targets they do so that they can expand their skill set to some
Mm-hmm.
degree.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really good friend. He's a psychologist and he's done some remote viewing at Stanford Research. And he told me once he did a target. It took him hours and hours. And I was confused by the fact that that would happen because the target essentially didn't have anything in it. It was just a square patch of grass.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me when he finished, he said, you know, that was the hardest target I ever did in my life.
Oh wow.
Because he said grass is basically unimportant
Mm,
and
right.
there was nothing else there. And I kept trying to put stuff there and it wasn't working. But it took him hours to come to that conclusion because
Wow.
nothing was there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a hard target to do.
Right. Right.
Ah, So there all kinds of things. We have things that have vanished, and we can show the route that was taken when the thing vanished,
Mm,
and the route's straightforward: point A, point B. And it's not very far, but somewhere in between, this thing vanished,
mm-hmm.
and it turns out that there's a reason. No, I'm not going to go into the reason here, but it's impossible reason to know unless you're actually using remote viewing and dowsing
Mm-hmm.
together. And I would say maybe 1 in 5 people usually get a pretty good idea where it went,
Mm-hmm.
what happened to it, but most don't. And it's
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to try to use the two in conjunction. But when you do and it works, it's unbelievable for finding things.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of stuff. But and a lot more viewing, by the way.
Right.
So
Right. Well, that's very interesting. I hope to get to the second class one day. So,
I
uh,
hope you can too. I you
yes.
know it distressed me. We had the class that you had to leave because you weren't feeling well. We had 2 other people uh, go through the same thing. So
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, I think it's a problem with how you get to the class when you have to fly in a plane
right.
with a bunch of people and people fly when they're deathly ill. They don't care about other people. They
Right.
won't
Right.
even wear a mask.
Right.
And you finally get to where you're going and you're going to do something really fun and you get sick because you were sitting next to somebody on a plane or a bus or a train or whatever.
Right.
That's frustrating. That's
It
truly
is. Yeah.
frustrating. And
It is. Yeah, actually, I had 101 fever on Thursday morning.
yeah,
No, on Friday morning, and then they told me, oh, if you have fever on Saturday morning, you need to leave. So on Saturday
yeah,
morning, I was down to 97, so I could
yeah,
technically stay, but then I was still coughing, and we had to work on teams of 3 people, and I just thought it
yeah,
wasn't fair for other
yeah.
people for
That
me to be
I
coughing and coughing.
can't tell you how appreciative we were
Oh,
in you making that decision because there's no way to know. And I think you erred to the right direction. I'm sorry to say that because you missed the
no,
program
but
mostly, but
I, I thought that night that I was away, I thought, what would Joe do? And to me, the answer is like Joe will jump in his truck and leave,
then leave, right?
and probably without telling anybody, he will just
Yeah,
leave because for him, the group of people will be more important than
right.
him.
Always.
And
Yeah.
and
The
that
class
was
is always more important to me.
And that
So
was to
yeah,
me, that was like I just can't stay.
you
Even
must have
if
been
I
reading my
technically
mind.
could. What's that?
You must have been reading my mind. I was hoping if you weren't feeling well that you would choose to go home. Um,
I couldn't stay, Joe. I had to go because at the end of the day, it's a wonderful class and you are a legend, and I wanted to be there because of you. But at the end of the day, everybody's health and integrity is more important than my ego wanting to learn from Joe. And I was able to meet you. You signed my book. I have it here with me, framed, and I learned some remote viewing. And if life wants me back again, I will. And I don't know. I thought that it was the right thing to do, just to leave, and I wanted to stay, but it was if I stay, it was going to be a selfish decision, and it just didn't feel right to me. So, um, but oh well.
we appreciated what you did, your decision.
No problem.